Let's get okay. So is Vern here? Oh, he's not going to be here. We. Oh, okay, perfect. Let's start that. I'm actually curious about that when I had somebody reach out to me and say, "Hey, what is the traffic study?" And I've been out of town, so I did not help prepare the agenda. So I am myself curious about the traffic study. Perfect.
Okay. 700 West and 100 North traffic study from Vern Keeslar, Provo City Traffic Manager. We are almost finished with Center Street. It is open and the striping and thermoplastic on the raised crosswalk will be installed later this month. I will probably hold off on the traffic study of 100 North between 500 West and 900 West until that is completed and after Halloween. Therefore, I have nothing to report on it yet. I will be looking at speed, volume, and crash data for the 4 blocks.
Okay.
Q&A. What is the decision-making process for making changes to streets and to make them safer? What kind of studies are done? Usually, safety studies are conducted to determine what types of crashes are occurring. If it is volume related, then capacity studies are done. Question, what data are you looking for? Answer, for safety studies, we review accident data for the past 3 years and look at all accident types. We review manner of collisions such as angle, rear end, or head-on crashes. Then we look at engineering solutions to lessen the severity of driver mistakes and human error. Once a preferred alternative is identified, we budget for the costs of the implementation. Depending on the solution, it could take years to obtain the funds for implementation of the preferred alternative. Sometimes there are interim solutions that can be implemented as well. For the volume studies, we look at the level of service for an intersection or corridor. Level of service is a term used to qualitatively describe the operating conditions of a roadway based on factors such as speed, travel, time, maneuverability, and delay. Question, what are the standards? Answer, safety standards are often compared to statewide averages for a given roadway. The Highway Capacity Manual defines 6 levels of service for each type of facility. Letters designate each level from A to F, with LOS-A representing the best operating conditions and LOS-F the worst. Each level of service represents a range of operating conditions and the driver's perception of those conditions. Safety is not included in the measures that establish service levels. Question, what determines if you get a stop sign, stoplight, bulb out, etc.? Answer, yield signs, stop signs, and traffic signals all must meet a warrant to install the traffic control device according to the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is published by the Federal Highway Administration and adopted by state code. Warrants for yield and stop controlled intersections consist of volume of vehicular, bicycle, and pedestrian traffic, clear view vision approaches, and crash frequency for failure to yield right of way at the intersection. For traffic signal warrants, delay, volume, crashes, and other miscellaneous items such as school crossings and railroad grade crossings play a role. Bulb outs are used to calm the speed traffic and allow for a shorter distance for pedestrians to cross the roadway. Therefore, pedestrian volume and speed are key factors in identifying locations for bulb outs.
So Vern apologizes for not being here. He has done a preliminary, he's looking at the crash data right now. And like he said in the first part, he's waiting for that because a lot of that Center Street traffic is now on 100 North. And so he just wants to get a true study going. So he apologizes he didn't have it done, but he just wanted to give you a background on how the studies work and that he will be in on it.
Okay. Thank you. Is this still working? I have a question.
Sorry, really quick. Oh, okay. Do you have a mic? Yeah.
Yeah, just
Oh, yeah,
because of the
right.
recording.
So, will he be here next time? Can we ask follow-up questions for him to answer for us next time or? Oh,
Is it not working? I did flip it on.
yeah, it says on. Hello? Oh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, now we know. Okay. I was just wondering, will he be here next time? I have questions after reading that.
Uh-huh.
Can we ask questions for him to bring or?
I have reached out to Vern before,
Okay.
just even via email. You can find his information on the Provo City website. Because I do not know if he'll be here next
Okay.
time. Like it would be great, but I'm like, I myself can't guarantee. He has been responsive to me over email before. I think it would be worth reaching out.
I think as well, if you just want to ask your question, we can get it written down and forwarded to Vern as well.
Yeah. Okay. Go for it.
Okay, I have two questions. My first question is the intersection of 500 North and 500 West. There are no turn right on red lights that are never turned on. And I am curious to understand why we have them, but they're not being used. And then I also, when it was saying this information about where we can have stop signs or not, I was kind of reading that as almost saying the federal government decides where you can have a stop sign, which I'm sure is not true. So maybe if I can just get some clarification on what that meant, because there were actually no standards given. I'm not sure I actually understand any better where a stop sign can be or a bulb out or any of that.
Okay.
So if we could talk more about that when he does come, that would be lovely.
Like human clarification.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments about the traffic stuff?
So my question with the comments from Vern would be, it seems like a lot of the motivations to put in stop signs or yield signs or other types of calming measures depend on crash data, which to me seems a little backwards, because if we know something might be dangerous, but we're waiting for a crash to happen to make a change, seems like we should try to make the change happen before crashes occur. I think of over on University where Canyon meets right
Yeah.
there by the Starbucks. There was the student killed there a couple of years ago, and I think it was 2019. And then the city decided to do something about it just recently. Feels
Same
like,
with the rec center.
yeah, and then same with that. It feels like we should try to make the changes before crashes occur. We shouldn't have to wait for crash data.
I do not disagree.
So I just wanted to comment. I am the one that brought this entire 500 to 900 West issue up. And that is exactly why I brought it up, because I recently had my partner's 7-year-old move in with us full time, and we walked to Timpanogos every day to and from. And every single time, there are times that I have to wait. And even if someone stops, people are now going around the stopped cars. So it is an issue of I don't want it to happen before it's addressed. And there have been kids hit in that specific intersection, 700 West and 100 North. I remember it was probably like 10, 15 years ago. There was a child hit and still nothing's been done. So that is exactly why it's been brought up. And thank you for making that comment.
I have, maybe this isn't even, it's totally unrelated. I know, I don't know why I don't know why it seems to be on and offish. Okay, I'm like, I almost feel more comfortable holding this one. I noticed that we had crosswalk stripes on 800 North just south of campus. And I felt excited about it, but I know that stripes are reserved for kids. Does anyone know why that was able to I was just curious. Like, I think children specifically. Yeah, but we're seeing it now south of BYU. I was delighted. I have no issue with it. I was just like, hey, what made this possible? I'm sorry. There you go.
I was under the impression on one of the things that I read on one of the Facebook pages when they were doing safety stuff, either the city or the police, that those stripes in the crosswalk, they mean that no matter, because you'll see them over by Target even, right? Right in front of the Target. No matter where a pedestrian is within those hash marks, you have to stop.
Mhm.
And a normal crosswalk, it's just if they're on your side of the street.
Oh, I'm like, I've never heard that, but yeah.
I'll follow up with that. Yeah, I believe that is true with the zebra stripes, but the other reason is just visibility. It's very hard at night to see just the two white lines that denote there's a crosswalk there, and that those intersections at 800 North are very dark at night. So I think the other reason for it was to promote visibility from drivers' headlights to see where the crosswalk was relative to their car. So
Yeah, I brought it up because I had spoken with engineering at some point. I was hoping to have some stripes like at a crosswalk closer to my house, and they were like, we can only do it if there are children that cross the street there. That was like the rule that I was given. So I was curious.
I mean, I doubt that that's true. I'm sure that they just have like limited resources, and so that's what they're prioritizing is like
Sure.
elementary school crosswalks. But I will say, with any of these things, like I think that engineering can only fix things that like they know about. And not to say that there aren't problems that they know, they're not fixing every problem that they know about, but like when someone gets hit in an intersection, like they know about that. But if something like this 100 North, like if we as neighbors are reaching out, showing up at neighborhood meetings and making comments, but then also too, like emailing Vern and the department, I think that we have a greater likelihood of them acting. If they hear from multiple people in the neighborhood that it's a problem, I think they are more likely to do something. So
Yeah, thank you. Are we ready to move on to Gina? Great.
All right, so I have a presentation here. My name is Gina Hales. I live in the Dixon Timpanogos neighborhood, and I'm currently serving on the school board. We want to make sure to get out information to everybody in the community, particularly to parents and kids, but also to everybody, whether you have a child or not. You pay taxes that go toward the school. So we want to make sure to keep everybody informed. So if we go to the next one, we got a lot happening now. We hired a new superintendent in July, and there's been a lot of changes that have been happening. So there's a lot of things going on. So I wanted to highlight a few things. So one of the things that we understood from a survey that we did just prior to hiring the new superintendent was that our communication was really bad. And so we have really been working hard on improving our communication. And so here's a QR code if you want to, it'll take you straight to if you're interested, but we have a weekly podcast that the superintendent does. It's like human interest and interviews students and teachers and administrators. It's available on all major podcast platforms. I listen to it on the Apple. I have an Apple phone, an iPhone, so I use that. And it's also on these other places. And then she also does a weekly video cast, which is more like just the announcements. This is what's happening in the district. This is what we're going to be working on. This is, if there's a holiday coming up or whatever, she'll talk about those things. So some people prefer to listen. That's me. Some people prefer to watch. That's the video cast. So whichever one of those you want to do, if you'd like to stay informed, I encourage you to do that. All right, we are working on a strategic plan. So basically a strategic plan will be our North guiding star on how we make decisions in the district. And we're way past due getting a new strategic plan. And we wanted to make sure to get input from the community. So community members, whether they have children or not, parents who do have children in the district, as well as some of our employees will be on that. So we have steer team. I just noticed I put steer team. Steering committee has started meeting. And so they've had one meeting, and then this last was it just this week? My days are all squishing together. Tuesday we met, and the school board had a 2-hour meeting based on our core values, our mission, and vision. So we talked about those as well. If you were not selected for the steering committee or didn't know about it, there will be other opportunities for feedback. They'll be doing surveys, in-person meetings, and possibly some Zoom meetings for people who can't make it to any of those. And the completion date is actually April 16th, I believe, is when, and I'm pretty sure we'll be done by then. So that's the strategic plan that we're working on. Next slide. And then Dixon property. So Dixon is right around the corner from me. It's been a big topic where I live. So the QR code will hopefully take you to the presentation that the superintendent put together, but basically discussions have started happening about what to do with the Dixon property once Shoreline, that's the new middle school, which is closer to, what's it by? Footprinters Park, that's right. It will be moved, and that will open in fall, just this next school year. So this is the last school year at Dixon. Public input will be sought before a final decision is made, but I have been pushing hard to start making the decision because we don't want the property to fall into disrepair. We don't want any of that. And so I wanted to have a decision made, and the school board is very on board with that. So the superintendent, after meeting she specifically met with me because I am from that area, and asked me what the community has been talking about. So I gave her some ideas of what the community had been requesting. And then she took feedback from the whole school board and everybody. And so here's some possible ones. This isn't an exhaustive list, but these are some of the ideas. A STEAM magnet school, a secondary school. And I will say, when I interact with board members from across the state, we're a little bit behind in that as far as having a magnet school. And so while it's not like an absolute necessity, we are a little bit behind in that. We have a lot of students that I think who could benefit from that. So we have a STEAM magnet, secondary magnet school, putting the district offices there, as well as a few other offices could go there. A resource center, because we hold adult ed classes. So we have people who are they're adults, but they're still taking classes to get their GED or whatever, and we don't have a spot for them. So it could be that. And then that's the PDF. So if you want to see the PDF, if that PDF doesn't work, you can email me. My email will be at the end, and I will make sure to get that sent to you. Okay. Any questions on that? Since this is our area, yes.
Several years ago, when this was, we were starting to talk about Dixon, one of the things they noticed was that the property was not earthquake safe. Is that going to be fixed with any of these options?
So good question. Earthquake safety. So it's not that the property wasn't earthquake safe, it's that the building is not. I don't know if there's a distinction. So it's actually pretty good. I think the property where it is pretty good as far as the earthquake zone goes, but the building itself is not earthquake proof. And I've talked to, so when we were trying to get it, I preferred it to stay where it is. And so I talked to the not the engineers, but the architects and everything. Really, you can make Dixon more earthquake safe, the original building. It will cost a lot more money, according to the architects that I talked to. So we would have some options. We could figure out a way to pay to restore that old building, or we would demolish the building and build a building that is more earthquake safe. The more cost-effective one is to demolish and build. But we want to talk to the community about what the community would want. So yes, we would make sure to address that issue. Any other questions on this? Okay, great questions. All right, next. All right, we need input. We have really been trying to be better about getting input from the community and listening to that input. And here are a couple of things that we do need input from the community on. So this is probably more for parents because you have kids and you want to make sure that you have a say in how the calendar looks. So for 25-26, we have it's open until I believe November 6th. But if you scan that, you can take the survey about, so they ask questions about like, do you prefer that it aligns with Alpine and Nebo? Do you prefer that it aligns with BYU schedule? Do you prefer that it gets out by May 31st? There's one, I was surprised on this one. They said something, would you like to go until Labor Day? And I'm like, I personally don't want to go till Labor Day. So you'll have a say in that. So if you will, that should take you to that screen. I did the QR codes myself, so if they don't work, just email me because I don't know what I'm doing. Yes, Becky.
Have they ever thought about moving fall break so that it aligns with Halloween? So the kids can stay out later and not be so tired the next day?
I think teachers would be really excited to hear someone talk about that because yes. I don't know if we've ever thought about that. I think it aligns more with, it does ask about fall break, but I think it just asks whether you prefer it be, do you want it to be a full 3 days? That might be some feedback that might be good to go with it. But I do think they try to do it with, at least they used to do it with UEA. So there's a few things they take into consideration, but that would be great if do you have kids still in? Awesome. Oh yeah.
I mean, this year, they were out for 4 days and they just went back yesterday. So, I mean, if they would have just pushed it off a week, those kids would have had that day off.
And all the sugar hangovers would have been on the parents, right? Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. When you take the survey, will you put that feedback in? Not right now, but eventually, or email me. That's fine. Just email me and remind me because I'd say I'd do it and then I'm going to forget as soon as I walk out the door. That'd be great. And then school start times. We get a lot of feedback about school start times for our secondary students saying it's too early. Their biological clocks don't work that way. We fully get that and we understand that. But so it can be done, but at a cost because we bus, right? And so we'd either have to pay for a bunch more buses, which is millions of dollars. Also, when we've talked about moving it to later release times, that means that dance lessons that people have in the afternoons and piano lessons get pushed back. And so usually when we bring it up, like everybody wants it moved, but then we start talking about, okay, here's what we're looking at. If we do that, people tend to say, well, never mind. So we want to make sure that we're actually hearing from you, right? Not just the people that I know, but the people or that the board members know, but that everybody has an opportunity to chime in on that. So look for a short survey. It'll be a short survey just to see what the interest is in us doing a full-on study on that. And that we're looking at having that come out in January, this coming January. Yes.
I'm very interested in that. And I think that it would be really important that you put on the cost of continuing the current schedule. So health for the kids, attention, car accidents, everything else. So that we're not just looking at the cost of the change, but the cost of continuing with what we've got. Otherwise, it's not a fair comparison.
Okay, yeah, we can take a look at that as well. And then I think to be fair too, because so if we move things around, you'll move the older kids later, but then that puts little kids walking to school in the dark. And so I think that's a cost that we need to be thinking about and we can list as well. Yeah.
My question about that is for most of us in this room, am I missing it? I don't think we have buses for transportation. So are there can I understand better beyond transportation costs what
the issue is?
Yeah,
So
why are like Timpanogos Elementary, why would our start time be affected by secondary school start times if there's not a transportation?
Secondary schools do bus. So even though Timpanogos is a walking school, it may be our only fully walking school.
Oh, okay. So that was my question.
Yes. And so it becomes a system-wide change.
Yep.
And so
I totally get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But good question. Very good question. Any other questions on that? And we're very open to feedback. Like we can make the changes. I'm not opposed to it. I'm a therapist. I recognize that it's hard for these kids to get up and it does not jive. And all of the research says we should start school later. That's why we need your input. Do we want to cut some programs so that we can start school at a different time? Or do we want to have young kids walking to school in the dark? And then we have a lot of older kids who walk their younger siblings to school. It's a whole thing. So, we are willing to listen. I'm not for or against anything, but I will take your feedback, Rachel, and talk about what the costs are currently. So I think that's good feedback. Okay. All right, next slide. All right, Camp Big Springs. Raise your hand if you've been to Camp Big Springs. Raise your hand if your kid has been to Camp Big Springs. So I've been to Camp Big Springs. My kid is not old enough yet, but Camp Big Springs, we had, due to the heavy snows last winter, there's a lot of infrastructure. So infrastructure was either damaged or destroyed due to the heaviness of the snow. And so it's going to cost at least $100,000 to replace the warehouse that held all of the equipment, and then additional money to rebuild the tent platforms, because we don't have cabins. We have them in like military style tents. And so I noticed I spelled additional wrong. I did go to school. I do know how to spell, but I'm not catching it until right now. The question that we have is, should we continue with the overnight camp? We can move to a day camp format. We can't, I mean, there's a lot of different, we could cancel it altogether. We've been, as a school board, have started because of this and talking about, do we want to continue to invest in this? Been asking a lot of questions about how much it costs. It costs a lot of money. And so we're still nailing down the cost. I'm not going to throw any out here because I don't have the actual numbers and I don't want to alarm anybody, but it's expensive to run. And so that's another thing that we're wanting input on. So you can contact your school board representative, and I'll have the three for this area hopefully will be on the last slide, and you can contact us. Is this something that you really want to keep at, at a certain cost, and we'll give more information later? Or is this something that we feel that we can do without? We are the only one in the area who does overnight camps, I think, anyway, I can't remember. I should stop talking about what other people do, but we are looking for input because we want to make sure if this is something that the community wants and is really connected to, and they want, and we're willing to pay the price, financially, but whatever other costs, then we're open to keeping it. That's where we're leaning. We are planning on running it this coming summer. And then it will be after that we make the final decision about what to do. So far, the feedback has been to please keep it, please don't get rid of it. And so that's the direction that we're moving. So we're looking for input. Any questions on Camp Big Springs? Yes.
Are you looking at expanding it so that more kids can go? Because my older two got to go. My little one did not bring home the slip in time. And so when I got it and tried to register him, it was already full. And so he didn't get to go. So I know that this opportunity is not available to all the kids in our school district. And it's an amazing thing. And especially those kids who are lower income and everything, we need to find ways to give them this opportunity.
Good question. So we have been talking about that as well. The last few years, we had COVID and then there were all of that happened, but we have not filled up the last few years. It hasn't been full just for the sessions that we have, but we know that once everybody gets back on track, it will probably become very popular again. And we want to make sure to give every kid that opportunity. So one of the things we're looking at is shortening the time so that we can take more groups of kids so that everybody can go. And so we're looking at that. We're looking at the equity issues there, making sure that everybody at least has the opportunity to go should they choose to go. And so the new superintendent has talked about that. And so we are looking at that. We want to make sure that we provide that for everybody. That's a great question.
I guess this may be moot because you guys don't have cabins. My husband teaches up in Alpine School District and they have Clear Creek. And what they do is they take the 6th grade or the 5th grade class and they take them overnight. And that's the way that they provide instead of the summer week that they spend there. Alpine does one night in the fall.
That is also an option. We have heard from a lot of parents as well as employees who talk about the benefits of spending a few nights up there, particularly for, as Rachel talked about, there's maybe some families who don't have those resources to spend overnight, to go camping. They don't go camping. My daughter, we have the resources. We don't camp. So great for my daughter to go. And so that is an option. And that would be a more cost-effective option, honestly. And that's why we're going to take a look at things and try and decide what's going to be the best option. Is one night going to be good? Is several nights? It is kind of difficult to get to. And we're talking about moving the tents from one area because you're going to have to hike down. Anyway, we're moving the tents down and there's just a bunch of stuff that we're looking at, but the great question. All right. So shoreline bus routes. We don't have time to go over bus routes. Bus routes give me a headache. But basically, when the school moved, pretty much the kids all in the Timpanogos neighborhood and everything, they weren't eligible for the bus according to the state and federal guidelines. And so the school district would have to pay for the bus routes. So we had some big discussions about it. And I was pushing pretty hard to make sure we get those kids a bus because they have to walk over train tracks and under the freeway. And over Center Street and I know they're old enough, but I also recognize their brains are not developed fully. So you have a train so anyway, we were able to get it approved at a slightly higher cost, but we felt that the higher cost was worth it for the safety of the kids. And so we approved an expansion of the bus routes to include those students north and east of the train tracks. And the Shoreline Middle School will open in August of 2024. Any questions on that? Okay. I act like it was on me. It wasn't on me, but I was making a lot of noise because my neighborhood really was it was on me. Okay, next. Oh, I'm done. Thank you. All right, so this is not, is there another one after this? I didn't send it. So this is me here. This is for, I sent the slideshow for District 4 as well. So I am for the Dixon neighborhood, Timpanogos neighborhood, North Park area, but that's for Terry McKay is more west of me. That's Terry M, Terim. She is, you can always just email me. I'll forward it on if you're not actually mine. So this is my email. Please, if you have any comments or questions or anything, please reach out. We really are trying to be more transparent, more communicative, and more responsive to the community. Any other questions for me that I didn't cover here? I'll don't know if I'll have an answer, but if you have any questions about school district, I'm happy to try. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Gina. We have a matching grant proposal by McKay Lenker. Come on up.
Thank you. Hi. This is my first neighborhood meeting in this neighborhood. My name's McKay. You can go to the first slide. So I'll just go ahead and get right to the point. My proposal is for a community toy library. So I'd like to use the matching grant to create, if you've seen the free little libraries around town before, it's a kind of a similar idea. I would like to have it located on the park strip outside of my house. And essentially it would just be a place where anyone can take or leave toys. Mostly I'm thinking kids would be the ones doing it. Or if you want to donate some of your kids' toys when they're not looking, you could do that too. So yeah, anyways, you can go to the next slide. And just a little bit about me. That's my little family. I'm an artist and an art teacher. I taught at Walden for 5 years in the high school as an art teacher up until about a year and a half ago. I also work for Downtown Provo. I do the art stroll, the mural program, our social media, basically anything Quinn Peterson tells me to do, if you know him. And I also run a project called Tiny Art Show, if you ever used to see those around the town. And I live in Maeser, in the Polka Dot House, and me and my husband have lived in that house since 2019. Oh yes, and my husband just redid our landscaping. So we have like this nice new xeriscaping. So I think it'd be fun to kind of nestle the toy library somewhere in there where it's visible, but it's, you know, kind of sheltered and protected. And I would love for it to be more child height so kids can open it and look inside. So for the design and installation, I'm hoping to repurpose a cabinet or something else that I find at DI that's an ideal size to house lots of different sizes and shapes of toys. I'll paint it, and I also have some other friends in the neighborhood that will probably also help add some art and things to it. My husband will be the one to put the doors, if it needs like custom doors to kind of seal it in from the outside weather. Put a protective finish on it. I was doing some research, probably it will need some kind of roof to protect it from the snow, and then anchor it into the ground with cement. The neighborhood grant would help cover the cost of materials and lots of volunteer hours. This project will engage neighbors and families by providing a community spot where anyone can take and leave toys. I had this idea because I have a baby, and I've noticed that it's not having a lot of toys, it's having new toys that he's never seen before. Not necessarily new from the store, but just a toy he's never seen. And I think that I just really think it's a fun idea to be able to like go out on a walk and you stumble upon, or maybe you make it a destination to visit this little toy library with your kid, and you leave a toy, but then you can take something new. And that way your kid can be entertained. You can maybe, meet new families on your way there or back. And it just kind of will foster a sense of community in our neighborhood. What will make the project successful? Once the toy library is built, it's pretty self-sufficient because it's just, dependent on community members to take and leave things. I thought it would be fun to maybe like post somewhere on social media, like updating what's inside of the library. If I can get people that are interested and want to see that. And then since it will be on my property or on the park strip by my property, I'll oversee the maintenance, just kind of cleaning it out, making sure there's like no, trash and things like that. And then also I would like to maybe like coordinate some other volunteers that also help with keeping it clean. I'd also love to put up posters advertising where it is and doing something on social media as well to inform people. And then I don't know if this is normally presented, but just so you have a little bit of the cost breakdown, I'm estimating about $200 for supplies. That's including the cabinet, the hardware, the varnish, roofing materials, cement, the post, and then about 30 volunteer hours to build it. And then I added in a couple just for maintenance over the next year. I think that I could probably get this done in about a month. I don't know when this is decided on, but I would love to get it done by Christmas. I think it would be fun. So yeah, I think that's mostly everything. Is that the last slide? I think so. Perfect. Any questions? Yes.
Wouldn't you have to get city approval for that since you're doing it on a park strip and not on your own property?
I have no idea. Oh, perfect.
Hi, my name is Abinadai. I'm actually, well, before I answer your question, our division has split into the districts instead of having specific neighborhoods. So there's one code compliance officer for each district, and I represent District 5. To answer your question, you would just have to talk to our department to see if we would allow for that or not. Just because right now I wouldn't be able to say yes, but I wouldn't be able to say no either. So it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would have to meet minimum height requirements. That would be part of the issue there.
Okay.
Correct. But besides that, great idea. So yeah, I'll give you my card and then we can talk later.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Okay, so just to clarify, I'm a little bit confused by your volunteer hours. So usually how the matching grant works is you have volunteers that work hours, and that's how you get the $200. We don't pay the volunteers.
Yeah.
It's that money goes towards it. So the volunteer hours, you would need $200 worth of volunteer hours, and then that would pay for it. But the volunteers don't get paid for any of their labor unless because it's always volunteered. Even if they're like a carpenter or something like that, that normally gets paid $25 an hour, then that would count as $25 an hour to go towards your cost of supplies.
Okay.
So no volunteers.
I was just adding that in just to get, I didn't know if you guys cut it down the middle with the cost, like if you match it half and half.
It's pretty much if you do $200 worth of volunteer service, then you get that $200.
Okay.
We will match those service hours with money, which will then go to your supplies.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I just had one more thing to say. Love your ideas. So great.
Thank you.
I have purchased a little free library that I haven't installed in our house yet. But you maybe should ask for more money.
Oh yeah.
That's all.
The low estimate.
I'm just saying this is great. So ask for more money so you can get it covered.
Okay. Thank you. That's a hot tip. All right. Awesome. And then do we vote on it today or is it a later? Are you in charge? I don't know. I'm looking at you. Like, should I stick around?
I'm the meeting conductor.
Yeah. So we have, the residents have already voted on a project, which is Rob Slater's project, which he's going to talk about. But this was such an inexpensive project that you might be able to do both. So if the residents want to vote, and you could even do Rob Slater's project is project number 1. And then this is in case his doesn't work, or have it ready to go for next year. If you want to do a vote now, you can, and you can vote on, this is our second choice after Rob's. His has been voted on, but has not been turned in or approved yet.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so just to clarify with like the volunteer hours, so I'm just trying to think, like this project would only actually take $200 out of our matching grant funds. Yeah, okay. So anyway. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Can I bring up a point? You guys have $1,000 every year that you can spend for whatever. Is it possible that they can spend $200 of that 1,000 to put towards one of these?
You can't, that $1,000 is to facilitate meetings and to promote community, such as socials, like that. She's put in her display, in her presentation, that she's presenting community. So you could very well use that $1,000 budget that you have to just pay for this outright and not do any volunteer hours, not have to fill out a grant form. That's per district.
One more point of clarification before you sit down. So then if they pay for this, then that makes all of her time volunteer time, improving the community. So could those volunteer hours then go towards his project?
Yes. Yes.
I'm like, should we vote? I'm like, what's the right thing to do? Okay. Thoughts, feelings. I personally am more interested in just the budget funds. I do know that myself and Dave Harding have dipped into those slightly, although I've not, just for the signs and then for you booking the pavilion. But I don't know how much the pavilion was. The signs were close to $400. Okay. Yeah, it was maybe they were like 350 or something altogether. So we would be able to put the rest toward that, but I don't know. Sorry. Thank you.
This is, as far as projects goes, this is a fairly inexpensive one. So that's. As far as projects go, this is fairly inexpensive. I would, my personal leanings would be towards using the matching grant, because we do have more flexibility with the other, and so there's things that we can do with the anyway. So that is kind of how I would lean. When we talked just generally about these projects, we've talked about how do we kind of weigh them, if we had a lot of different proposals, how would we kind of rank them? How do we spread the benefit and whatnot? And so in some ways it's kind of hard to like judge this by itself, because we don't know what other things we might be able to use with it. But I think our biggest risk is like last year, where we ended up not using the money in the fiscal year. And then it just, we kind of lost out on that. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Rachel. Here.
So I really love this idea. And what I'd like to see is doing one first and then doing a little network of them with the map. And since you've got experience with the murals and setting those up, like this would be like our little toddler map of Provo going through the neighborhoods and connecting, lines along through a park and stuff like that. So I think we should definitely do the first one and then look at strategically where we could put others through the neighborhood and think of it as kind of an ongoing project.
I like that idea.
I actually was thinking very similar to her. It'd be cool if we had like a bunch of them. So like I own the property that I'm in. I'd be willing to host one specifically in the Dixon neighborhood. So if that's something that we think the community would have interest in, I'm sure that even if we just start with the one, it could expand. And I mean, the Friday night art strolls are super fun. This could be something that's more geared towards children. And then that might also help with the sense of community, because I feel like a lot of the lower income families are not as connected because they're working so much. But giving them an activity that they can do in the neighborhood that specifically involves the children will make it more appealing to them.
Just really quick, I know that we already have one in Franklin. We have a free little library just down the street from me. So yeah, I think it'd be really fun to be able to have one or two in each neighborhood and then have a little map that people can go around. I think it's a great idea.
Well, let's take a vote, but I feel like for me, there's a little bit of nebulousness. I'm like, should we vote about, I don't know, to me, it's like first funding it, but B, like, should it come out of matching grant funds or we can just take that off the table. I don't know.
I think if we just vote on whether or not we want it to happen, we can figure it out.
Yeah, that's probably the right approach. Then let's raise hands if you'd like to support this grant project. Oh no. I think we can be informal. We can just raise our hands and we can count. Or we can do it. Okay, motion to support. Okay, let's count hands. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, you're counting. I'm gonna let him count. Okay. I mean, it's like everyone here. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We'll support it. We'll let you know how. We'll have to figure out the details. Okay. So let's thank you for bringing a grant proposal project. And let's turn the time to Rob Slater with updates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you weren't here last meeting, I proposed a community project where we improve the landscaping here by Market Fresh. Who uses Market Fresh here? I mean, does everybody shop there? Most everybody. I don't know if you noticed, but their landscaping consists of asphalt in the park strip. Okay. And so I think we got a unanimous yes on moving forward with it. So I've done some legwork, and turns out the Elks Lodge owns that land, and so I talked to them. They said, yeah, we're in favor. They would pay for the water after we do the landscaping. What we need now is matching grant money. So here we are talking about money again. And what it's probably going to take is, now, Rachel, I thought it was $10 an hour is what's given for volunteer work. Is that right? Oh, great. So big raise. Okay. So maybe we don't need 500 hours now. So we were thinking, we need about $5,000 to pay for the materials and whatever excavating. We got to remove the asphalt, haul it off, dig out the dead trees. We've got to do a design plan. So we figured about $5,000. Anyway, so now we're down to maybe 450 hours. Turns out the city will take any hours. So there's actually neighborhoods in what's up the hill there, still Provo, Grandview. Yeah, where they're using like ward service projects, stacking them up. And all we have to do is just log hours like crazy. And before long, I mean, do we have every neighborhood represented here? All, whatever, 7 or 8 of them? No. Franklin? Is there a Franklin chair? Are you a member of the chair? Okay, I'm in Franklin too, so I'll talk to you. Who's maybe not? Go ahead.
Can I chime in really quick? This is a question for you probably. Would my hometown hours be able to work towards matching grant? So then, okay, we can talk about that.
Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Here, you want?
I have a question as well.
Yeah. So it's any service that improves your community in your district. So it can't be bringing a meal to someone. It has to be something that's like maybe fixing a yard or raking leaves, picking up trash, something that improves the community as a whole. But yeah, any type of, if your Boy Scout troop is doing a project, go to it, log the hours. If anyone's doing any type of project, kind of figure out what they're doing. I just need to know what the project was, where it was done, what day, how many people participated, and for how many hours.
And it is to benefit the community.
Yeah, it has to be within District 5.
Okay.
Has to be within District 5 and something that beautifies your community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed.
Okay.
And why do we log this? I'm missing some part of the story here. I wasn't here last time. I super love the project, by the way, but
So the way the program works is the city gets a twofer. The city gets a bunch of citizens cleaning up their community. And then the city also gets you guys doing something that beautifies your community. So we get $5,000 worth of service cleaning up District 5. And then we pay you that $5,000 and you use that to fix up that park strip, again, beautifying your area. It's a way that the city council doubles their money to help beautify. Yeah, it's a humongous win for the city.
So, but just to understand, like I'm sure in doing this project could get 450 hours between everyone doing it, but we would need to do hours. Like we can't get the money to do the project and then do the hours after. We need to do hours related to the project.
So there's 2 different ways that districts have been doing it. Some districts do the service first, and then they get the money to do their project because sometimes the money is being used for sidewalks. They can't go and build the sidewalks. They're paying Public Works to build the sidewalks. But a lot of times your service hours is doing your project. And so a lot of times we just reimburse you area, like the residents are paying for the materials and all of that. You're doing the service, you're doing your 450 hours worth. That's your time. Give me your receipts and then you all get reimbursed the 5,000.
So then just like for this project, for example, like maybe we don't have like $5,000 that we all just want to drop. But if Elks, for example, had money that they were willing to put up for like the plants, for example, to pay for upfront, then we donated the time, installing them, doing the landscaping, then the city could reimburse Elks the 5,000 after. So we wouldn't like need to we could just do it all in one project instead of needing to do like
Right.
a separate project before.
Yes, yeah. For example, District 1, they had a park and it was a private neighborhood park that they wanted to put sprinklers in. So their kind of project was cleaning up the park, and then they had the city do a purchase order to the sprinkler guy. So he had a contract with the city that they would pay him. He put in the sprinklers, and then after it was done, we actually paid the purchase order.
So that makes me think maybe I could go to Cook's nursery or something, have them donate, or not donate, but provide vegetation, landscaping first, because they can float that for a while. Then we get the job done. I don't think we could log 450 hours just doing this project, though. I think we're going to need additional hours.
I think it's just 350 hours.
You
It's
did
like
the math.
333 or something like that.
Okay, I still don't think we can get
Okay,
350 hours
but
in this one.
here, let me propose this and see if Rachel likes this. In the past, you do your hours, you get everything together, because let's face it, we're heading into winter. This is going to be next
This
spring.
spring, yeah.
So you guys can shovel sidewalks, you guys can get all those hours done. Those hours, they collect pretty fast if you're all doing them, right? So what if you get the hours first, then spend time over there cleaning it up and get approval to use those hours to plant everything there towards your next project? Is that a possibility?
Usually you try to do your service hours and your project in the same fiscal year. You can't bank your hours, at least we try not to. I'll have to double check on that because they did want to do everything in the same year. But you could do it where those hours go towards her project. Right. Right. So you could do a ton of service now. I just put for the board members, I just put in the Facebook group for the executive board members that BYU is looking for projects. They have a community cleanup club. They're putting the word out. They need something for the next 3 Saturdays in November. They are begging for projects. The last time we had them come out for District 3, and Becky, you were like one of the only residents there with 30 BYU students, and they got to log all 30 of those BYU students their hours. So we have.
So you're saying we need to give them a project?
Yes. Yeah.
3 projects.
So if people will send me projects, or the board members go on that Facebook page, I've got the community cleanups email them, say, hey, there's got to be projects in your area that need to be done. They mentioned raking leaves. They mentioned preparing people's yards for winter. So if you have anything like that going on, talk to your board members and they can talk to this group at BYU. Their whole club is cleaning up communities and they're begging for projects.
Are they don't want to participate in a home, what's it called again? My Hometown Initiative?
No, because these are BYU students and they don't want to get up that early. So the My Hometown, you have to be there at 8 o'clock. The earliest they will start is 9:15. So they've actually turned down. I've told them about My Hometown. They've turned it down because they don't like getting up that early. So later project. I know I did bring it up, but do count those.
These BYU kids, they have to have the service hours for whatever class they're in. Some of them is religion class. Some of them are really weird classes that I'm like, how does that relate to service? But they have to have those to get their A. So they're motivated to come out and do service projects. So put them to work.
For sure. So that could be half of our hours right there.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Is the Delta in our district? No.
No, that's District 3.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So My Hometown's not doing any more projects this year. They'll likely start up again in March is what they did this year, but can we go back? I can get the numbers for the past. That was my question, because if we can use like past hours, because we did projects all the way through October, well, through this month. And so if we can use hours from September and August, we probably already have enough hours to.
Is Greg Bond over that whole?
Yeah.
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 So we could go to Greg and you think
Yep.
you could?
Oh yeah.
Good. Well, we may have less service hours needed than what I thought. Anyway, so go ahead.
I was gonna say if you could draw up, because two thoughts came to my mind is if we could draw up kind of a sketch of how many hours you think it'll take to do the project itself, because then we can do the math on how many additional hours we need, and between the representatives of each neighborhood, I'm sure we could each try to figure out a service project if we need the hours. It can't be that hard to put together a few people to go rake some leaves
I
and
think we could figure
that
out
kind of thing.
estimated hours,
So-
work man hours needed. Yeah. So my initial thought was it was just going to be contiguous neighbors. So Franklin, Dixon. What's this way? Downtown. Yep. Yep. But I mean, would Joaquin and Maeser want to get involved too? Yeah. See, there's a lot of hours we could do real quick. Dave?
When you mentioned that the Elks Lodge was willing to pay for the water, is that willing to pay to put the irrigation system in, or they're going to?
Not so much that, no. You know, they do a lot of their own community service and things like that, and they've got a lot of that stuff earmarked.
Okay.
But because that is on their property and will have to tie into their water that they use for the rest of the parking lot and the retail stores there, then they said, yeah, you can just tie into our water and we'll pay for it.
I believe by code they are responsible to, that they're responsible for
To maintain
the
it.
park strip.
They are, yeah.
And so I mean that's like, oh yeah, we're willing to water what we're already required to water.
Well, yeah, I don't think we can get the maintenance out of them, but I think among our neighborhoods, it's going to be, xeriscape as much as we can. So it'll be pretty minimal maintenance.
Yeah.
And then, we'll just need volunteers from the neighborhoods to go pick some weeds down then, kind of thing.
Okay. It seems, I mean, there's the phrase, that's the least we could do. It seems like it's actually quite a bit below the least that there should.
Well, they could say no to the whole thing. So I was glad to hear.
They could, but the city could also enforce, which they have.
No, the whole project. They could have said, no, we don't want you to do this. Leave
Right.
it alone.
But I'm saying, but this city could say, yeah, that's fine. You can turn down all of these all these volunteers to do this, but you actually have to put some landscaping in there because what they have now is against the law. So
yeah, it does need to be at least 25% landscaped.
Yeah.
In the park strip, right? Benedict, who's got the closest microphone?
40% landscaped. 40%.
It was 20 originally. And then what was so final end up being 40?
40. So it's always been 40. It's been 40 for some time. That park strip right there has been cemented for years, as far as I know. I don't know how long.
He was here last time. You said the 60s, since the 60s.
60s. Okay.
Wow.
So that answers that question. So that's
time for a change.
It's partly the reason why we haven't enforced on it. But yes, it is enforceable. It is very enforceable. And so the landscape plan, if you have one, it'd be great to look at just to see what ideas you have for that. I'm sure you have several ideas that will look perfect, but 40% of it needs to have some sort of live vegetation to it. So
that does it have to be? Can it be drought tolerant stuff? Does it have
desert plants, bushes, whatever you want, as long as it's living. So.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention is I know at least Home Depot has policies about like if there are community projects and they've come to certain things and they've said like, hey, if you've got a community project, let us know. We would love to participate and basically, give free stuff. And And so I don't know about cooks or whatever, but I think we could probably, anyway, just make the matching grant money go as far as possible by partnering with people that are willing to help.
Parking to Home Depot would be a great way to get East Bay neighborhood involved as well, because it's primarily business owners and we don't get a whole lot of input from them. So.
Okay, so what I wanted to do today is get, I've got a Google Drive that I can share and just pass around and for you guys to start logging hours or give to people. I mean, just pass it around like candy, please. And everybody you know that's doing any kind of service project, give them the link. So if you could just put your name and email on here, then I can send the link to everyone. And do what?
Like a link. Yeah.
Okay, I don't
That might-
follow. What are
that
we
might be
saying?
Easier.
I mean, we have everybody's emails already, or what?
Yeah, so people sign up to get updates from these meetings.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, I'm not talking to the microphone, but basically everyone who's in attendance has the opportunity to look over the meeting minutes. So we can put the link in the meeting minutes and then everyone here in attendance can reference that link.
So give that link to Rachel.
Yes, yeah, and she'll get it in there. Everyone will be able to see it.
Because then we can also get that posted on the various Facebook pages and it'll spread quite quickly.
Okay. Well, good. Well, then I don't need to use my clipboard.
Quick, one last question. Sorry for you. Do you have I know Benedict already asked this. Do you have a sketch or like a rendering of some sort that we could share with people?
No.
Okay.
But I've got a couple people that I've talked to that are landscape designers that would be that said they'd be willing to put something together for us.
Because I think if we could get a kind of realistic rendering of it, so we can share that with people to kind of say, hey, this is what we're trying to do, but we need these man hours. It's a very motivating when you can see the visual to get people to.
We could include, pictures of as is now, and then propose, and that'll light a lot of fires.
The last thing I'll say is Chaz Addis, the city arborist, before you touch those trees, make sure to talk to him, because if you touch those trees, then District 5 will be in trouble.
Even
we
the
don't want
dead
that.
ones?
So yeah, even the dead ones. So talk to him first.
Okay. Can I talk to Matt? I'm pretty good friends with Matt. Yeah, okay. Matter of fact, Matt's the one that suggested using the matching grant, so he's on board. Yeah. Okay. So back to one of the original questions. Do we have all the neighborhoods represented here? I mean, don't think so. Don't know. Okay. Because you're Maeser, right? Yeah. And downtown, is that pretty much Quinn? Is he the only one that comes to these meetings? You don't get retailers here and stuff? No. Okay. So Quinn would be our contact there, and we'll try and get every neighborhood involved, but I think everybody's in favor from what I've seen. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just curious, like, what you're thinking as far as timeline. Like, I'm pretty sure that the fiscal year is over end of June. So, I mean, at the very latest, we would have needed to plant the plants before that so that we could reimburse whoever we got them from. But I'm thinking that, if possible, it might be a good idea if we could like do some of the demolition, maybe like now, and then we can just plant like when it's warm in the spring, so that we're not having to like, crap, it's March, we got to get everyone going to tear all this out, and then we got to plant it all like in one go. Maybe we could break it up. And then, as the demo too, I think would be our lower cost thing. So we wouldn't be as reliant on getting that.
To load that and dump it,
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
We need to see a mock-up first. That should be the first order. It's like, what are we doing? And also the owners should see that too. And so they'll be on board with it.
Yeah.
And do something more.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good starting point.
One small detail, I've actually been talking with some xeriscape companies about doing things in my HOA's area, and apparently winter is a very good time to plant a lot of these drought tolerant plants because they're kind of dormant, and so you can just plant them, they wake up and they do great in the spring. So
so that means we could start sooner than we think. Yeah. Okay.
I think next year as well, it would be really easy once my hometown gets their monthly projects going again. It might be worth it to have one of their projects come. And I know technically they're mostly just the Franklin and Franklin South neighborhoods, but it's across the street. So I'm sure we could twist Greg's arm and get him to send us some volunteers one of those Saturdays as well.
Yeah, we've done some hometown initiative projects in Franklin. Are you with the city? Do you work for the city? Oh, Rachel, let me ask you, would it be possible to get maybe Parks and Rec or Public Works to do the demo?
We can always ask.
Yeah.
I mean, we can ask. I don't know if they will, but we can ask.
Well, technically it's city property. The park strip is city, private,
Right.
maintained, but city owned. Yeah.
Yeah. And like Abinadi said, we'd have to talk to Chaz Addis, and I think we would have to talk to Public Works anyway, since that is the park strip, and we can ask them about it.
All right. But yeah, so my takeaway here then is I'll get started on getting some kind of a rendering put together that we can show around and give a visual of what we're proposing to do. And then get the link out, start stacking up hours, and I'll talk to Home Depot. I'm there every day anyway. I'll go talk to them and see if we can get some involvement there. They have some limitations, but it sounds like this is one area that they could actually help. Yeah, good deal. All right, any other comments or questions? Okay, great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Rob. I'm like, do we have to report on the get out the vote event? Okay, because it did not happen because as chair members, we just kind of had a lot going on.
We're just slackers.
So I have signs. This is the one announcement. This is why I actually did still want to talk about it. So I made signs, yard signs. They're here in the back in a box. I would love if anyone would like to display one in their yard. And the metal stands are beneath the signs in the box. So take a sign, take a stand. If you take one for a friend. Yeah, I'm like, if you are a chair, I hold you responsible for taking a stack of signs. No park strips. Mine is not in a park strip. Because sorry, I'm like, I'll repeat it because you're not speaking into a microphone. So it's just that the park strips are city property. We don't put signs in the park strips. We're not allowed to. So put it in your yard instead of the park strip. And I think that is it, unless there are any other comments or questions.
Okay. Is this public comment time? I just have a short thing. So Chaz, we talked about Chaz. Chaz Addis actually helped me this morning to plant 11 trees around my house, kind of in the area. And I was talking to him, and he was saying that, and I actually bought just my own money, just a bunch of like rings to go around them, because I constantly see these lawn care services. They're just zooming along. Their lawnmowers are just cutting into these trees and killing them. And he told me, he said, yeah, the number he gave me was 60% of the trees that die that we take down, we are dead because of lawnmowers and weed whackers. And I thought 60%, I mean, just think about it for a minute. 60% of the trees that Chaz and his team are removing are because of lawnmowers, basically lawn care people who don't know what they're doing. And I'm just wondering, I mean, that's incredibly wasteful. I'm just wondering, I'm just throwing this out there into the ether. Maybe when trees get planted by the city, maybe it costs a little more, but something's done to prevent that. It just blows my mind. So, and I've spent hundreds of bucks so far in my neighborhood just buying rings and stuff to put them around them because I'm so tired of it. So that's my solution, but that's not a Provo wide solution. So.
Is it possible to put some type of punitive measure if we are able to find that these lawn care services are damaging and leading to these trees dying? Just because I've seen it happen. I live in Joaquin, and so obviously it's mostly complexes, and so it's all managed by lawn care services, and I see them very recklessly just get in, get out as quickly as you can, move to the next property. Yeah, and so like I've seen them and they just right up to the trees and just as hard as they can. Many trees have lots of cuts in them at a low level.
So yeah, two of the ones, the 11 we planted today were, 3 were replacements of dead ones because of lawnmowers. So.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem fair for the neighborhoods or for city money to go towards replacing, these trees that are being damaged by individuals consistently. It doesn't seem to be an accident, but something that's recurring.
I think prevention is going to be the better way to go.
Yeah.
I just think though the prevention is the better way to go. Like if there can be some little ring around there, even something you put around the trunk of the tree that the city does when they plant, because I don't know. It's just a thought, but.
Now, my thought would be that it would be the homeowner or the landowner.
Yeah, I was
that would
gonna
be
say, put it on
responsible
the-
rather than yeah. And so I think that's where you're going to get into your really big stink. You're going to have apartment owners versus landscape people.
Well, you've got, in apartment buildings, you've got the property management company that it just takes the heat, and they usually are the ones that are responsible for resolving those issues. So that seems like, while we're transitioning all these trees with rings around them, we should start holding these companies accountable.
I was just kind of agreeing with Becky. It's city property, but it's the property owner's responsibility to maintain that. And we have a lot of flexibility on how we maintain that. And so if it's an apartment complex, the person who is paying for those lawn services are the ones that are responsible for those trees as well. And so theoretically, it's in their best interest not to hire a company that's going to kill their trees. And if their trees are killed, then, they could take that up with the company that they hired. Anyway, it's yeah.
Generally, none of that will happen though, because the property managers actually don't care either. So unless you bring it up to them, right? I've had some who've been nice, but I brought it up to one actually some people at Redstone, and they talked to their people, and then you haven't seen any damage in the last couple of years. So it can happen. But I guess I was just thinking more like when we put in new trees, if there can, I don't know, some little ring around it, or like some border or something gets put in, something that's not that expensive, and then that would save the tree just save it. Just a thought. That's cheaper than replacing that many trees. I guess that's what I'm thinking.
I have a separate thing if that's done. Mine was just after everyone said that we should email Vern. I found that actually I cannot find his email address anywhere. I don't know if it's allowed to be put in the minutes or something, since it was brought up, because Dylan here said if we have concerns, we should proactively share those. And so if that could be included, it would be great in the minutes.
Yeah, it's just
Or
V Keeslar at provo.org.
Lovely.
So it's just it's always the first initial and the last name.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go to bat for engineering here for a little bit. The thing that I found out, and I found out early on, they by law have to follow certain protocols. They call them warrants. And so if they don't follow those, and they're put out by the state. So sometimes people get really frustrated because you can complain about a stop sign all you want or complain about anything all you want to, but until it meets those warrants, they cannot do anything. So it's always a good idea to let them know and bring it to their attention and let them know everybody's worried about it. But if nothing happens, it's not because they don't care, it's because they can't.
I also want to say that the engineers that we have currently are so much more proactive than engineers that we've had in the past. And I'm always so grateful and happy about that. Are there any other items that anyone wanted to bring up before we adjourn? Thank you all so much for coming and participating. We appreciate your presence and attendance.
Thanks for making it happen.